Welcome to today's edition of Inkboard Today. My name is Michael Moran, and I'm happy to be your host today. And in these shows, we take a look at local community service providers that are serving Southern Kane County. And so in today's show, we will learn a lot about Conley Outreach Community Services. So with that, I'd like to introduce today's guest. I'd like to welcome Dr. Carol Alfie to the show. Carol, you're the Executive Director of Conley Community Outreach Services. Could you share with folks a little bit about how you got into that role and maybe your career path that got you here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike, for having me here today. Conley Outreach, of course, has been in the community for a long time. I've been affiliated with it for about 17 years now. And originally, I taught school in the Geneva School District, and from there I went up to graduate school at the University of Minnesota, where I worked for another 12, 13 years in the area of developmental disabilities. Came back home, worked here at Waubonsee for a number of years, and took some time off when I had our son, and I started writing grants for Conley Outreach while my son was little. My father was on their board of directors, and so as Bruce was transitioning back to the funeral home away from the nonprofit, he asked me to step in and do the administrative work, and I've been here ever since.
And you mentioned that was 17 years ago now?
17 years ago, yes.
And I know it's part of your title, you're Dr. Carol Alfie, so
yes.
You've been involved with education, with disability services, with some grant writing.
Yes.
You're now overseeing the agency. Educationally, your doctorate, what is your doctorate degree in?
My doctorate was in educational policy and administration, so through administration. My master's was educational psychology. And then my undergrad was all in special ed and elementary ed.
So all focused on meeting the needs of people across a variety of settings and things like that.
Absolutely, yes.
So yeah, no, interesting path. And so obviously part of what we want to give you the chance to do is to also then talk with folks about the organization. And so people may know a little bit about you, they may know nothing. So maybe we should start by giving you the chance to share with folks, what does the agency do? Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, Conley Outreach has been in the community for, gosh, at least 30 years. And it started as aftercare bereavement through the Conley Funeral Home up in Elburn. So many people recognize the name Conley and associate it with the funeral home. And so obviously our initial services started out as bereavement aftercare. We did support groups, we did some individual counseling, and other family type services in bereavement. Since that time, it's expanded drastically. We have other grants. As the needs in the community expanded, so did our services to meet those needs. We come from that small town model of trying to help neighbors and figuring out how to bring people together to solve local needs and problems, and that's really kind of what Conley Outreach has been doing over the past 30 years. We've expanded from the bereavement work to linking people up to services, to providing other types of services in the school. We have been instrumental in doing some substance prevention work in the local high school. So wherever we see a need, we try to partner with other area agencies to come in and meet the needs of our community. And when I talk about community, I'm really talking about specifically kind of the Caneland, Big Rock area is our primary focus for many of our grants, but we service through our grief work a whole large geographical area. So
two things actually as a couple follow-ups. So the original sort of focus of the services was really dealing with grief and bereavement. So
right.
people dealing
After
with loss
services,
and
yes.
support to assist people in the process. And certainly it sounds like you've expanded and taken on additional tasks
yes.
in the intervening years. So there's a lot of services. How big is the organization and how many sites do you operate?
The organization, we do a lot of things with very few people. And we have a staff. I am the executive director, and so I would be considered the staff. I do have a very part-time assistant who kind of does whatever needs to be done, and then I hire grief facilitators, people that come in and help with some of the things we do in the summer. So we're very small, but we have a large group of volunteers that help us do some of our community-based programs and who've really allowed us to be able to have the impact that we've had in the community.
So very lean agency.
Very lean.
There's really, from what you described, really yourself in one of their paid position, and then some consultants who do some work, facilitation for you, and then volunteers as well. So, and in terms of what I call locations, again, I know you said that you started originally in Elburn. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then, is that just one single site, or are there other locations?
We started in Elburn, there by the funeral home. We once we got the West Towns grants, which I'll talk about later, probably in the program. We have 2 offices now related to that program. One in Elburn, which is located in the community center, which is the old school right there on Route 47 in Elburn. And then the other is in Sugar Grove, and it is in the township building, which was the former library in Sugar Grove. So we're very centrally located within those 2 communities to service the Kaneland district, which is so large geographically. So we do have offices in 2 different places so that we are as close to the community as we can be. The Elburn office is right next to the area food pantry. So when the food pantry is open on Thursday evenings, I'm always in that office so that it makes accessibility easier for people who may be coming in to get food as well. So
you really reduce the barriers. So if somebody needs services, you're trying to make it as easy as possible for them to access services.
Between the two offices, yes. And I've met people, if transportation's an issue, closer to home, public library, someplace, as close as possible to make it as easy as possible to get services.
So small but very flexible, and really trying to accommodate the needs of the people that you're working with. And I do want to go back. We will talk about West Towns a little bit later, but to go back to what you started with the grief and bereavement services. So as I understand it, a fairly complex set of services, and so different people with different needs. So within what you do with folks, are there a variety of programs that you offer that are relative to helping people deal with loss and grief?
Absolutely. Like I say, that is kind of the cornerstone from which we have developed our services. So the bereavement services are, we have 3 different types of bereavement services. We have our crisis services, which are where we will go on site if there's been a death that impacts maybe a staff of a school. It could be a business, it could be any of those things, where we have people who will go in and just help people process that. We have our grief groups. We have 3 different adult grief groups. We have one for young widowers. They have kind of a separate set of needs, unlike older people who are widowed or widowers. Sometimes with younger folks, there are children involved, there is dating, there are all kinds of issues that sometimes don't impact those who are older when they are widowed. Our second grief group that we have is our grieving parent support group. And that is for any parent who's lost a child of any age. So it can be an adult child, it can be from any type of death loss, from accidental to illness or any kind of death loss. Our third group is just a general grief group. So it's open to any adult grieving a loss. It could be a loss of a friend or a sibling, a parent. It could be a spouse. So there are no parameters in terms of the type of loss for that group. They all meet once a month. They all meet up in the Elburn office. They're all free, and they are drop-in groups, which means you don't have to register. It's nice if we know you're coming, but you don't have to register for those groups. You can just come. So for some people, they come regularly. Every single week or every single month they're there. Others, depending on the time of year it is, it might be an anniversary of a death or a person's birthday or something like that. They may just need to come in and get a little support just that month. So those groups have been going on for over 20 years. The Friendship Night has, or the Grieving with Hope has. And the others have been within the last 10 years. We've started those groups, those specialty groups.
Okay.
The last program that we have is our Good Grief Day Camp.
And let me interrupt you now in that we're
Yep.
going to take a break. So when we come back from the break, give you the chance to talk
Okay.
a little bit about the Good Grief Day Camp. But
All right.
that's been very informative. So we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we'll finish up our discussion about the services they offer in terms of grief. We also will take a look at the additional services available through the organization. So we'll see you shortly.
Recovery benefits everyone.
I started my own company.
I got my dad back.
My friends believe in me. Daddy's home.
Substance use and mental disorders can be treated. It all starts on day one. Join the Voices for Recovery.
We try to hide our truths about our mental and substance use disorders from the world, and sometimes from ourselves. Saying I'm fine is a facade. By facing our problems, recovery begins. And we are empowered to speak our truth. Join the Voices for Recovery. Speak up. Reach out.
Okay, well, welcome back, and welcome to the second segment of today's show. Again, right before the break, Carol, I know you were beginning to talk about one remaining service that you offered, the Good Grief Day Camp. This is still related to the grief and loss services. So I interrupted you. Can you share information about that program with us as well?
That camp was started about 8 years ago, and it was my dream to give that as a gift to Bruce Conley prior to his passing, was to kind of show him how some of those programs that he dreamt of could be expanded and made into reality. And so every year we offer a 1 week long half-day camp. We offer it in Big Rock now at the McCannon Farm, and it's for children who have lost either a parent or a sibling to death. So we have been doing this for about 8 years, and some of our graduates come back now as teen helpers and help us through that program to help other kids.
How exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And there's a variety of services then that you guys offer relative to grief and loss and bereavement, those sorts of things. And on an annual basis, do you know how many lives you touch with those services approximately?
Between all of our different programs, probably between 2,000 and 3,000.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
quite a lot of
Yeah.
people. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know, even though those were your roots, which I mean that's really how the organization started, you've evolved and you've grown and you've added additional services and additional areas of focus. Small organization, but really connected to the community.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
how do you ensure that Conley Outreach Community Services is connected and engaged to the community?
Well, you know, our West Towns Network, which is our big connector grant, we work with all the area agencies that are related to everything from homelessness to substance abuse, developmental disabilities, to financial assistance and things. We do a very good job of making sure that we are aware of what kinds of agencies are out there to help people in Kane County, also in DeKalb and Kendall and DuPage, because sometimes our residents really live closer to some of those areas. So we try to have a handle on all different kinds of agencies out there that can help people. And through our West Towns Community Resource Team that meets here at Wabansie monthly, that gives us a chance as agencies to meet together to talk about our programs and to share with each other new things that are happening. We can even brainstorm if someone brings in a client they're having problems with to kind of see as a group what resources do we have that we can bring to bear to help this family in need. So we do a very good job of connecting through those monthly meetings, through emails of sharing that we connect our various events going on or our programs that we share with each other. So it's not just Conley Outreach and the West Towns Network, but we rely on those area partners too to share information about our services as well as our other member agencies. So it's been a very, very useful tool to make sure that we really know when we are referring someone that we are referring them to the right agency or agencies for their service. So
So really it's a forum, or it's really a mechanism that allows local organizations that meet a variety of needs, not just what you guys do, but other organizations as
Right.
well, who come together in a way to really work to advocate for and meet the needs of local residents and
Absolutely.
those sorts of things. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the West Towns Network, the West Towns Community Resource Team, which you said was a monthly meeting. Now, my understanding was that part of what the network or the resource team does is provide scholarships and assistance
we
for
do.
people. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the West Towns CRT is what we call it, the Community Resource Team. Each year we use our dues for our organization to provide a $500 scholarship to a student at Wabansie who is majoring either in human services or planning to go forward into a 4-year degree in social work. And I think we've been doing that for at least 5 years, could be more than that we've been providing that scholarship. So I do want to back up though a little bit and just explain a little bit about just the whole West Towns notion, which is kind of a one-stop shop for people to call to get linked up to area agencies. That's why those connections are so important. So when people call our office and ask for help because perhaps their mother no longer can live alone at home anymore and what kinds of services are available, that way we know when we answer the phone, because of our connections, what kinds of services are out there and who might be able to help do that. So the West Towns network itself is really a one-stop shop for people to call one number and get linked up to literally a 25-page list of resources that we've developed over the years in all the different types of services to get help. So I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah, no, that's,
people
I think that's
understood kind of
important.
what that was, what
And
that
really,
was
so
all
what
about.
it sounds like that does is that when people are experiencing something that they've never encountered before, something unexpected, and it doesn't just have to be bereavement, but challenges that are occurring that may be first-time challenges, that really one of the intents of the West Town Network is to be able to get people in and help them identify what's available, here's who you can contact, here's how to reach them, and really make those linkages so that people can travel down that path in as smooth a way as possible.
Yeah. One of the benefits of the West Town CRT is that not only do I have phone numbers, but I also have personal connections. So I really know more about the services than maybe just calling an info line or something like that, where we've got that personal connection with those agencies.
And so it sounds like as part of that, so there's a personal connection that you have with the agencies and the organizations that are a part of the network, but also then you really emphasize the personal touch with
Absolutely.
the caller, with the
Yep.
resident, with the family member who's reaching out to say, hey, here's what I'm
Yes.
experiencing. I'm not quite sure what to do,
Yes.
those kinds of
Yes.
things and that. So yeah, really personal on both sides of the equation, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, in terms of the West Towns Network, I know Conley Outreach Community Services, you're one organization, but your role is to coordinate that network. So
Yes,
you really
it is.
support it and bring people together and access local resources and things like that. So one of the things that we need to make sure people know is that if we're interested in accessing services via the network or accessing services via Conley Outreach Community Services, how can they best reach you? Phone numbers, websites?
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that?
Phone number 630-365-2880 is the main Conley Outreach number. I have an office number in Sugar Grove, but everything rolls to that main phone. And then our website is conleyoutreach.org, very simple. And there is a way via the website to just contact us directly. So that or emailing at conleyor at conleyoutreach.org is the Conley email.
Okay.
So lots of ways we can connect up.
And a couple of things, because I've learned it's good to repeat the numbers. We'll have a chance at the end of the program, but can you repeat the phone number one more time?
Sure, 630-365-2880.
Okay. And so by phone calls, there's an email, there's also a website. So if people were interested in services, can they actually initiate sort of a request for service from the website?
Yes, they can.
Okay, so there's going to be some link on the website
Yes,
that they
there
can
is.
use to. Okay. How often do you find people accessing services? More through the phone, more through the website? What's your experience been?
More probably through the phone. And
Okay.
also some referrals via email, more and more through email, through people who know who I am and connecting me up that way with people.
Okay, okay, real good. And it's time for our second break. When we get back, there's some more things that Conley Outreach Community Services provides that we haven't yet covered. So we'll be back shortly.
Recovery benefits everyone.
I started started my own company.
I got my dad back.
My friends believe in me. Daddy's home.
Substance use and mental disorders can be treated. It all starts on day one. Join the Voices for Recovery. Recovery benefits everyone.
I started my own company.
I got my dad back.
My friends believe in me. Daddy's home.
Substance use and mental disorders can be treated. It all starts on day one. Join the Voices for Recovery.
So welcome back to our third and final segment. Again, today's show has been focused on Conley Outreach Community Service, and we're visiting with Dr. Carol Alfrey, who's the Executive Director of the organization. We've talked about a lot of things so far, and again, I go back to the fact that you're a very small agency, but a very dynamic and very flexible agency. I know one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is what I call the community care team. And so is that something that you would want to share with our viewers right now?
The community care team was an idea that Bruce Conley had a number of years ago to address the needs of just regular people in the community who normally wouldn't seek help from an agency but might go to a friend or a trusted person at church. And so the community care team is really a training program to help people who we call natural helpers in the community to really be better able to be good listeners, be able to kind of make the assessment of when people are talking to them, maybe that person needs to get more professional help. And so we do provide these free trainings for local scoutmasters, library staff, church people, whoever are interested in getting more information about how to help refer people and help people better in the community. And so from those trainings, we have got a list of over 100 volunteers now that can also come in and help us in some of the activities that Conley Outreach is doing.
So, and we'll talk a little bit about those activities, but really, so as I hear you describing this, so anybody who's watching this show, if they're interested in potentially becoming a volunteer, if they have an interest in somehow trying to be able to help people, there's resources available through the organization where you can work with them and help them develop those skills and somehow contribute to the community and things like that.
Yes.
And you mentioned there's opportunities for those volunteers to be active. So what are some of the kinds of things that the volunteers on the community care team might be involved with?
Well, one of the main groups that we've done a lot of training with are some of the local churches. And we have partnered with those churches to provide what we call the monthly meals program. That is up in Elburn, and it's part of the Elburn Food Pantry there. We provide a hot meal once a month, and the different churches rotate through providing that hot meal. It's a sit-down dinner while they're waiting for the food pantry to open. So those churches have gone through this community care team training. So as they're working with people serving the meals, talking with them, they also have been trained in terms of listening and really identifying people who might need a little more help. So that's one program that we have that we really access our volunteers. Another one is our Good Samaritan Clothes Closet. We have a clothing closet that is in Sugar Grove. It's in the township community building there, and it's donated space for us to use to help distribute clothes to anyone who lives in the Canelan School District or the Hinckley Big Rock District. And so our volunteers obviously help in terms of donations. They help in terms of sorting through clothes and helping us staff the clothes closet when it's open.
And sometimes we take things for granted, but really, as you talk about those programs, I think about what I call the basics. And so things like food and clothing and shelter are all things that are basic needs. And so there's resources available through the community care team, and your volunteers can really play a direct role in helping link people to resources that can help them meet those basic needs and that. So, okay.
And that's where you said we're small, we're lean. We can, when we see a need in the community, we can develop a program as long as we can partner with some area churches or other organizations to do those things, and boom, meet a need right away. Those two programs were developed during the recession to help meet the needs that we saw in the community. So.
And then how about in terms of if there was some sort of emergency that came up that a family needed any kind of emergency assistance, are there resources available through the community care team to help address that as well?
Yeah, it's not a direct community care team type of resource, but we do have what we call 3 benevolence funds that we are able to help people that fall within our catchment area with necessity of life needs.
Okay.
And so we have what we call the Good Samaritan Fund. I'm also the local Salvation Army rep. We are an extension site of the Metropolitan Salvation Army because our catchment area falls outside of the core boundaries for the Salvation Army Corps. And then we have a third program called Holiday Spirit, and that's also relies on volunteers heavily because in that program we link families in need with other families or individuals or groups who volunteer to go shopping to purchase the gifts for those families at holiday time. So those are our 3 benevolence programs. Holiday Spirit relies totally on volunteers and donations from our community.
So lots of opportunities for people who want to make a difference in the community to do so, and they can do that by reaching out and getting involved through you and through Conley Outreach Community Services. And that. So
Yes.
Earlier in the program, one of the things that I didn't follow up on that I'll ask you about now is you talked a little about some school-based substance abuse prevention.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
That's a new grant that we have. We are partnering with the Kaneland School District, and it's called the Kaneland Coalition for Healthy Youth. And it's a partnership between Conley Outreach, Breaking Free is heavily involved in this, obviously the school district, and community, just community members who are very concerned about just the problems that teens are having in terms of substance abuse. And so that coalition meets monthly up at the high school, and we are there to facilitate whatever we can through the high school and through the kids there, ways to prevent substance use. We have purchased literature that they have actually chosen that they said they would actually read, and we've purchased literature racks and literature to put in the high school. We have funded prom programs. We have done a variety of different kinds of activities to try to get kids just thinking a little bit about some of the decisions they're making.
Yeah, difficult or challenging population to
Yes,
reach,
absolutely.
but so it sounds like you've developed some strategies that are going to be more effective at reaching them and kind of, as you said, helping them make healthy decisions about what they choose to do, what they choose not to do, and those sorts of things.
Yes, we partner with one of the student groups there at Kaneland so that we have a tie-in with an actual student-led group to help us get that information out to other students.
Yeah, so instead of parents or adults coming in and saying, here's what you need to know,
Yeah.
we have young people themselves who are directly involved in saying, here's what we need to know, here's what we want to know, but here's the way to communicate that information to us that's going to make a difference in those sorts of things.
Yes,
So
definitely.
Okay. So as we near the end of the program, are there any other services or anything else about Conley Outreach Community Services that you think is important for our viewers to be familiar with? I do want to give you the chance also to repeat how people can reach you again. So I need to make sure we get both of those addressed in the time remaining.
I think that just to reiterate that we are very small, but our impact is quite large because of our connections with other groups in the community, with our volunteers, with all of those things that if a need arises and someone calls or emails me, I will do anything possible to try to link that person up with the appropriate services. And I do follow up with families and people to make sure that their needs have been met. And to just call us. We are available all the time. And if I can't answer the question, I'll try to find someone who can.
So again, we go back to kind of where we started. Very small organization,
Absolutely.
very lean, very flexible. Also, though, I guess I would continue to repeat that. So volunteers help you make a difference and help you accomplish your mission. And so part of what you're always looking for are people who are caring about the community that want to work to make a difference in the community as well and help Conley Outreach Community Services carry out its mission as well.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes.
And you've mentioned Bruce Conley a couple times in today's conversation. So if you could quickly say a little bit about Bruce,
Sure.
and then also we would need, we're out of time, so the phone number and the website again for folks.
Well, Bruce Conley was funeral director for many, many years up in Elburn at the Conley Funeral Home, a 4-generation funeral home there, and it was his dream to be able to help people in their grief journey, and he really felt strongly that the funeral wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. And so it was very important to be able to provide people with that follow-up service in terms of
Okay.
support groups and whatever. So, and it's just kind of mushroomed from there. The needs have grown in the community, and so has the organization.
And if people want to reach you, phone number
630-365-2880.
and the website.
www.conleyoutreach.org.
Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us today, Carol. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you joining us today. We look forward to talking with you again.